"Now listen close," the old man would rasp, leaning in with eyes that had seen too many storms. "This ain't no ordinary tale. This one's carved into the cliffs themselves." Her name was Mara Delane, but the frontier had other names for her. Ironback Mara, Red Hollow Titan, the widow who could stop a stampede. She wasn't giant in the way children picture monsters, but tall, broad-shouldered, built by hard seasons and harder loss. And ever since the canyon took her husband, she lived alone on a quiet stretch of land where the mesas burned crimson every dusk. Her cabin sat on the edge of a wind-carved ridge, a place where the coyotes sang thick at night and the silence pressed like a heavy hand in the day. Folks rarely saw her, except when she rode into town for nails or whiskey, her horse small beneath her, her face set in stone. But the desert had been restless that month. Tracks where tracks shouldn't be. Noises in the canyons that didn't belong to any creature folks knew. Rumors of raiders drifting like smoke. And one night, one storm-split, sand-eaten night, a stranger arrived at her door. He came walking out of the swirling dust, coat flapping like a wounded flag, head bowed against the wind. A lone figure with the quiet tread of someone who didn't want to be found. His name was Eli Bracken. A rancher, they said. A loner, most agreed. A man who carried grief in his eyes the way others carried guns on their hips. When he knocked, the storm howled behind him like a starving wolf. Mara opened the door, towering in the glow of her lantern, and for the first time in years her voice trembled. "Get inside," she said. "Hurry." But the moment he stepped across her threshold, she stiffened, eyes narrowing at something only she seemed to sense. In the pause between thunderclaps, the silence grew sharp enough to cut. Then she said it, the words that would mark the beginning of the legend. "Don't move, not 1 inch." Eli froze where he stood, dust dripping from his coat, breath shallow. He didn't know yet, not then, that the widow had been waiting for this night, or that something in the dark had been waiting for him. The storyteller always paused here, letting the fire crackle before whispering. And children, that was the moment fate finally opened its eyes. Eli didn't breathe, not because he feared Mara, but because something in her voice, low, tight, sharpened by nights without sleep, told him she wasn't warning him. She was warning something else. The cabin's lantern flickered once, twice, then steadied. Outside, the storm hissed against the wooden walls like a great serpent tasting the air. Mara lifted her chin toward the rafters. "Don't move," she whispered again, this time softer, almost pleading. Eli followed her gaze, expecting a snake, a coyote, maybe a raccoon blown in by the storm. But there was nothing, only darkness pressed between heavy beams. And yet, he felt it, a presence, someone or something watching. Then the wind died, completely, as if the whole desert stopped to listen. Mara moved quietly, slowly reaching behind the doorway where a long, iron-barreled rifle rested, far heavier than any average settler could manage. When she swung it up to her shoulder, Eli realized the stories about her strength weren't tall tales after all. "There's been signs around the ranch," she murmured, eyes never leaving the roofline. "Tracks as big as wagon wheels. Campsites abandoned the moment I get close. My horse is cut loose at midnight." She swallowed. "They've been circling for weeks, waiting for the right moment." "Who?" Eli asked. "The Vulture Creed." Even he had heard the name. A gang mean enough to burn whole homesteads just for the deed papers. A group of men who believed the land belonged to whoever shed the most blood for it. "Thought they stayed down past Windbreak Ridge," Eli muttered. "They moved north," she replied, "after they killed my husband." Eli's eyes flicked toward her, troubled, sympathetic, but Mara didn't notice. Her gaze was fixed on something Eli still couldn't see. A board creaked overhead. Just one. Mara instantly raised the rifle. Before Eli could speak, a frantic whinny tore through the night. A horse outside bucked and thrashed violently, hooves cracking against the corral. Another followed. The storm wasn't frightening them. Something else was. Eli stepped forward out of instinct, but Mara snapped. "I said don't move." There was fear in her voice. Not for herself. For him. She lowered her rifle just enough to look at him directly for the first time. "They think I'm alone," she whispered. That's the only reason they haven't rushed this place yet. If they knew you were here, Eli felt his pulse thrum in his ears. He hadn't told a soul he was riding near Red Hollow. How do you know about them? He asked. She hesitated. Then the truth slipped out. Because someone's been watching you too. Before Eli could answer, a shadow passed across the lone window, slow, deliberate, unmistakably human. Then another. Torches ignited outside, glowing like demon eyes through the swirling sand. A voice, rough as broken gravel, bellowed, "Bring us the deed, widow, or we take it off your cold body." Mara's grip tightened. Eli's breath steadied, and the storyteller always leaned forward here, voice dropping low. That was the night the vulture creed finally stepped out of legend and into the widow's front yard. The old storyteller would say, on that night, even the wind was scared to move. And anyone who's lived long on the frontier knows that's no small thing. Outside Mara's cabin, torches burned like fallen stars, their smoky glow cutting through the storm-grit air. 15 men of the vulture creed stood in a ragged semicircle, rifles slung low, chains hanging from belts, faces hidden beneath wide-brimmed hats soaked in dust and menace. Their leader, Jonas Crow, a man shaped from cruelty, raised his torch higher. "Mara Delane," he hollered, "you ain't got but one chance. Deed or death." Inside the cabin, Eli Bracken stood as still as a stone pillar. To him, the torches meant one thing. They didn't come to threaten. They came to finish. Mara slid to the side of the window, studying the formation with the sharp, assessing gaze of a seasoned sentinel. "They'll hit fast," she whispered. "Crow always does." Eli didn't answer. His jaw tightened, that same, slight tightening Mara had seen earlier. The kind that said a man had survived storms worse than this. Then, a bang. No warning. Just the cabin door exploding inward as the creed rammed it with a timber post. Mara fired the first shot. The rifle blast shook the air, sending a thug crashing back into the dust. Then all hell broke loose. Bullets smashed through the windows. Splinters flew like angry wasps. The lantern shattered, plunging half the cabin into darkness. Eli didn't hesitate. He moved, not like a rancher, not like a lonely drifter, but with a fluid, silent precision that didn't belong to ordinary men. He dodged a swing of a machete, grabbed the attacker's wrist, and twisted until bone cracked like dry twig. Another tried to grab Mara from behind. Eli slammed him into the wall, knocking him cold. For a moment, even Mara paused, astonished. "Who are you?" she breathed. Before he could answer, Jonas Crow stepped into the doorway, eyes narrowing as they locked onto Eli. "Well, I'll be damned," Crow growled, the ghost of Coyote Ridge alive. The room froze. Mara turned slowly toward Eli, shock and disbelief widening her eyes. Eli exhaled softly, as if shedding a burden he'd carried for years. "That name's dead," he murmured. Crow laughed, a raspy, hollow sound. "Government scout, fastest hand this side of the divide, vanished after the war on terror raids. Rumor was you got yourself buried in some canyon." His smile twisted. "Guess we never finished the job." Eli stepped forward, shoulders squared. "I'm not the one you should worry about." Because Mara, towering, furious, grieving, charged Jonas with the strength of 10 men. She knocked him backward out the door, the two tumbling into the dust. 3 more gang members rushed Eli. He fought like a ghost in a storm, silent, merciless, untouchable. Grit and blood mixed underfoot. A knife sliced his sleeve. He countered with a brutal elbow that sent the man spinning into the fireplace stones. Outside, Mara lifted a fallen support beam. Lifted it, hurling it toward 2 thugs trying to flank her. They dropped instantly, side by side. The widow and the ghost rancher carved through the creed like a pair of living legends, strength and precision, fury and silence. By dawn's first faint glow, only Jonas Crow remained, crawling into the canyon shadows, wounded but alive. The storyteller would always tap his cane here and whisper. He ran that night, but fate was running faster. Dawn crept over Red Hollow like a slow-spilled lantern, spreading gold across the blood-stained dirt. The storm had died. The wind returned. And for the first time all night, the land breathed again. The old storyteller always paused here, leaning closer to the fire. When the dust settled, he'd say, "The giant widow finally lowered her rifle and told the man she'd feared losing, 'You can move now.'" Eli Bracken stood in the broken doorway, shoulders rising and falling with each breath. Smoke curled from the ruined cabin. The bodies of the vulture creed lay scattered across the yard, shadows stretching long in the morning light. Mara approached him slowly, boots crunching over shattered glass. "You tracked them," she said softly. It wasn't a question. "For months," Eli admitted, wiping blood from his brow. "After what they did to your husband, I knew they'd come back for you." Mara's eyes softened, grief, gratitude, and something deeper mixing in their depths. "You're no rancher," she whispered. "No," he said, "not anymore." She studied him. The scars on his hands, the silent step, the sharp eyes that missed nothing. She'd known from the moment he crossed her threshold that he carried a past heavier than any saddlebag. "You fought like a man ready to die," she murmured. Eli shook his head. "No, I fought like a man who finally had a reason to live." Before she could reply, a sudden metallic click broke the stillness. Jonas Crow, bloodied, desperate, crawled from behind a corral post, pistol shaking in his trembling grip. "Mara!" Eli shouted, but she wasn't the target. The barrel pointed straight at her heart. In that split second, Eli Bracken moved, the very movement she had begged him not to make hours before. A blur of dust and breath and instinct. A gunshot cracked across the ranch, and Eli staggered. The pistol clattered from Crow's hand as Mara, roaring with fury, seized the outlaw by his collar and hurled him into the dirt. One final, powerful swing of her rifle ended the threat forever. Then she turned, face drained of color, catching Eli as he collapsed into her arms. "I told you not to move," she whispered, voice breaking. He managed a faint smile. "And I'd do it again." Weeks later, Eli healed in Mara's cabin, now rebuilt stronger than before. Folks who passed by swore the two worked together like sunrise and shadow, different, but made for each other. And the storyteller always ended the tale the same way. They became protectors of Red Hollow, those two, the giant widow and the ghost rancher. And if you listen close on some quiet nights, you'll hear the desert whisper their lessons still.